Hello, it's Alex, the Bookubus. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books I read in October, and I ended up reading 17 books, which I know sounds like a lot, but to be fair, like half of them were children's books, so they only took, mere minutes to read. I also read some vintage YA, which again, you can get through in like a day or two. And then I only read 3 like actual general adult titles. So yeah, the fact that I added in a bunch of very quick reads was why I read so much. But I took part in the readathon that was hosted by Kelsey over at Slime and Slashers. It was a Halloween horror themed readathon, all of the prompts relating to horror movies, and yeah, I ended up kind of almost reading everything that was on my TBR for that readathon. There was one book that I ended up switching out for a different book, so I guess technically I did read everything, but yeah, one title was changed. And that was Your House is on Fire, Your Children All Gone by Stephen Keasby. I ended up swapping that out for The Case Against Satan by Ray Russell, and yeah, ended up getting to the Stephen Keasby one at the beginning of November instead, and it was excellent. So I will talk about that in my November wrap up, but yeah, today we're focusing on the October stuff. And I decided to split this up into types of book. So we've got kids books, like, mainly picture books, then some middle grade, then some young adult, and then some general adult. So I'll talk about them in that order. So if there's, I guess, an area you're not too interested in, you can just skip ahead to something else. So first up, I'm going to talk about these two together. They were both called Halloween. They were kind of kids books, non-fiction. One was by Helen Borten and one was by Cass R. Sandak, and I think one of these was from the 60s, one was from the 70s. I found these both in my library system and decided, they might be fun to have a look at. And yeah, I think the standout thing for me for both of these titles were the illustrations. The illustrations were very cool. I think the content felt a bit lacking. I mean, bearing in mind, they are quite dated and I am not the intended audience. But even so, I wasn't blown away by them, honestly. So I rated them 3 stars each. They were okay. I'm glad I checked them out, but don't know if I would go out of my way to recommend them necessarily. Next up was Gus Was a Friendly Ghost by Jane Thayer, and this is one I just happened to stumble upon at a library book sale earlier this year and saved it for October because it looked very cute and spooky. And yeah, again, I loved the illustrations here. They were really cute and spooky and I thought this one was also good, but yeah, there's a part in the story where he just isn't that friendly, quite honestly. So the fact that it's called Gus Was a Friendly Ghost, I just felt like, wow, Gus, calm down. So yeah, I don't know, I'm clearly reading too much into this as an adult when it's meant for 5-year-olds, but I don't know, it was okay. I rated it 3 stars. Another ghost-related one that I read was Georgie's Halloween by Robert Bright, and I did like this one a little better. I think this originally came out in the 50s, and again, the illustrations were super cute, and it's about a ghost, and it's set at Halloween. Yeah, I just found this one, I think I enjoyed the story a little bit more. It was, yeah, very wholesome and sweet, so yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. I also read Scary Scary Halloween by Eve Bunting. This was another 4-star one. Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, it's written for kids, so again, I'm not the intended audience, but the illustrations were absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed this one. So yeah, and it was very Halloween-y. It gave me all of those kind of vibes, and yeah, it was very cool. I also read How to Care for Your Monster by Norman Bridwell, and This was, I think, originally came out in the 60s or 70s, and yeah, had some great illustrations, and I just really liked the writing. It was, yeah, very witty and funny, and yeah, talking about kids having monsters as pets. I mean, it was just great. It was really wonderful. This was another 4-star. And last up for this section was actually a 5-star read, which I know is a rarity for me, and it is an Usborne book on ghosts by Christopher Maynard. I borrowed one from the library here, which is the US cover, but I remember the UK cover, which is slightly different from my childhood. I never actually owned a copy of this, but I distinctly remember our primary school library having a copy, and I remember, you know, flicking through it from time to time, and yeah, just being terrified but fascinated by it. And so yeah, I hadn't seen this book in decades, and it brought all of those memories back. It was just such a nostalgic experience for me, and yeah, the illustrations are brilliant, and I actually did read this cover to cover, and I think the content is actually really good. It goes through a lot of different ghost related things about, like, what are ghosts, what are the theories of what ghosts are or could be, and, you know, what are the possible explanations of a lot of ghostly experiences that some people have had. So it's very much a kind of objective view of ghosts. You know, it doesn't seem to particularly take a side one way or another. It's just presenting you with a bunch of information, I guess, and I just really liked that. I thought it was very well presented, and yeah, it kind of, the way that it was laid out in different sections was really good, and yeah, just the illustrations were amazing, and yeah, some of them definitely were still creepy. So yeah, all in all, this was just a really good time for me. My rating is definitely related to the nostalgia factor, so if you didn't read this one as a kid, you might not enjoy it nearly as much as I did, but I still definitely recommend checking it out if it sounds interesting to you. And this was, yeah, a 5-star read for me, so a bit of an unexpected 5 stars, but I'm doing it anyway. Okay, now moving on to the middle grade books. I read Scarecrow Walks at Midnight by R.L. Stine, which is part of the Goosebumps series. This was only my 2nd ever Goosebumps, and yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I rated this one 3 stars. It's about a girl and her little brother who go to stay with their grandparents for the summer, and they live on a farm, and the guy that they have helping them on the farm has put up a bunch of scarecrows in the field, and yeah, some creepy stuff happens. Yeah, I thought this one was okay. I enjoyed it somewhat, but yeah, it didn't necessarily become a new favourite or anything. It was 3 stars. I also read Stranger in the Mirror by Lynn Beach. This is part of the Phantom Valley series. This is about twin girls, and they get this mirror from an antique store, and some strange things start to happen. They start seeing this other girl in the mirror, and then one of the twins gets taken through the mirror to the other side and is unable to get back. So the remaining twin has to pretend to be both twins while she figures out a way of getting her sister back. So yeah, this one had like a historical element to it, because the one twin, she gets taken through the mirror into a previous time period. And yeah, I thought this one was pretty fun, and yeah, I rated it 3.5 stars. And I also read You Can't Come In Here by PJ Knight, which is part of the Creepover series, and this is about a girl who makes friends with the brother and sister who live in her neighbourhood, and they are homeschooled, so her other friends have not met them, but she really likes them, but yeah, they do seem a bit strange in some ways. And yeah, some strange things start to happen, and eventually she, yeah, puts together the pieces of the puzzle and figures out exactly what is going on with these 2 kids, which I won't spoil for you, but it was fun, and the main character is a horror fan, so, you know, that added a cool element to it as well. This was a pretty good one. I rated it 3.5 stars as well. Okay, and moving on to the YA books. I read The Doll by Rex Sparger. This is part of the Dark Forces series, and this is about a teenage girl and her boyfriend who go to this county fair, and it's one of those ones where they have like exhibits that then get judged and prizes are awarded. And our main character collects dolls, and she has got her doll exhibit ready to display. And anyway, while they're at the fair, they're looking around at the rides and the stalls and the games and stuff, and there's one particular game, and one of the prizes is this like antique doll that she becomes obsessed with, and she just has to have it. And anyway, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that she does eventually get the doll, and creepy stuff happens. And yeah, this one was pretty fun. I did very much enjoy the creepy stuff that happened. I thought that was really well done. It did get a little bit religious, and yeah, just felt a little bit kind of preachy, I guess. But otherwise, it was still a fun read. I gave it 3.5 stars. I also read Gimme a Kiss by Christopher Pike, and this is the Christopher Pike that I really enjoy. He seems to either have these ones that are more like, yeah, like thriller / horror, and then he has these other ones that are a bit more weird and spiritual. Yeah, I much prefer his like thriller end of things, so yeah, this one fits into that kind of category. It's about a teenage girl who has her diary stolen, and certain things are spread around the whole school, and she is mortified. And anyway, she decides to try and get her revenge against this girl that she thinks had something to do with it, and also her boyfriend, who she's not super happy with. But of course, the revenge plan goes horribly awry. I really enjoyed this one. It was, yeah, still had Christopher Pike's signature kind of craziness going on. Like the story, yeah, definitely went to some places. And also the other thing about his books, his characters do deal with some more adult things than you might read in like the R.L. Stine books or point horror books or whatever. You know, there's usually sex involved. Wowzers. So yeah, you know, these teenage characters do feel a little bit more real, and yeah, obviously I won't spoil where the story goes, but it's kind of a bit mad. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I also read The Accident by Diane Hoh. This is a point horror book, and this is about a teenage girl who finds a ghost in her mirror, basically, and the ghost wants to swap places with her for a week. And the main character feels really sorry for her, and so decides to agree to the plan. But as you can imagine, things don't turn out quite the way that she hoped, and she has to figure out a way of getting back before some horrible things happen. And yeah, this one was really good too. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a bit more of a kind of quieter story, but yeah, had some really good suspense, and yeah, there was some real peril involved, and yeah, it was a good one. Definitely a point horror that I would recommend. I rated this one 4 stars. And last up for the YA, might actually be my favourite of them. It was Graveyard Moon by Carol Gorman, with this amazing cover. And this is about a teenage girl, surprise, surprise, who moves to a new school and, you know, kind of falls in with a few friends, but they want her to go through this initiation, and this involves going to a graveyard overnight with them. But while they're there, they actually stumble upon a body, and yeah, this kind of sets the whole story into motion, and our main character is trying to figure out this mystery behind the murder, and if, you know, she could possibly be next. And there's some romance along the way too, of course. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. I thought it was great. And yeah, I rated it 4 stars, and I would definitely read more by her. There's one of hers that I do have on my shelf. It's a Ouija board themed one, so definitely looking forward to that, and I'll definitely keep my eye out for more of her books. Okay, 3 more books to talk about, and these are the like general adult titles. So one was a Halloween anthology called The Ultimate Halloween, edited by Marvin Kaye. I rated this one 3.5 stars overall. Some of the stories were just okay, some of them were good, some of them were really good, so yeah, the kind of mixture of ratings per story ended up, you know, giving it a 3.5 star overall. But yeah, there were some really good ones in here, and overall I did enjoy it. They are all obviously Halloween related, so it was perfect for the season. And I think my favourite, if I had to pick just one, was one called Pumpkinhead by Al Sarantonio. It was really good. Yeah, it definitely stood out to me as a favourite, and I know he's an author who has written, you know, quite a number of novels, which I haven't read any of them, and some of them are Halloween themed, so I would absolutely, yeah, like to check out some of his novels now that I've read a short story of his, which I enjoyed. I also read Moonfall by Tamara Thorne. This is about a woman who moves back to the small town of Moonfall where she grew up. She actually grew up in an orphanage for girls, which is run by a group of nuns. And as an adult, she gets a teaching job at the orphanage. And her reason for going there is actually to try and discover what happened to a friend of hers at the school who died while she was there. And yeah, of course, there are some dark secrets uncovered in, you know, surrounding the orphanage and the small town. And the other main character is the local sheriff who has, you know, grown up in this small town, and he ends up, you know, meeting the main character, and they form a bit of a relationship, and he's trying to help her, but, you know, he doesn't really believe her to begin with, at least, because she doesn't really have much to go on. But he also has a bit of a backstory in that something strange happened to him when he was younger in this small town, and, you know, so that kind of comes back to be a part of the main story. And yeah, there's also like a local lady who is, you know, referred to as a witch, and she and the nuns don't get along. And there's also a creepy doctor guy and some ghostly goings on, and yeah, some gargoyles, and yeah, there were just quite a few elements going on, and it's also set around Halloween, so, you know, it was kind of like it all thrown in there, and I did quite enjoy it. I think it was a bit, I just wanted a bit more from it. I think by the end of it, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't necessarily blown away by it. So I rated it 3.5 stars, and yeah, I thought it was definitely good enough that I would like to read more by Tamara Thorne. And last up, I read The Case Against Satan by Ray Russell. This is one that I've been meaning to read for ages, and Juan over at Plagued by Visions had picked this title as his like monthly group read over on his channel, and I had requested it from my library, but it didn't actually come in time for me to read it before he had the discussion, so that was a bit of a shame. But you know, once I finally got the book in my hands, I obviously still wanted to read it. And yeah, this is a possession / exorcism story. It does have some similarities to The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty, but The Case Against Satan did come out before The Exorcist, and it was interesting to see the similarities. There were definitely moments where I'm like, damn, he really just ripped this off, didn't he? But that said, there are quite a lot of differences as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one to compare and contrast. And yeah, I really liked this one. I thought it was really good. It's definitely not as sprawling as The Exorcist. It's definitely a bit more of a condensed story. But yeah, it's following a priest who is new to a particular parish, and he's introduced to a teenage girl and her father. She has been displaying some strange behaviour, and yeah, there's the possibility that she is possessed by something, and so yeah, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that an exorcism takes place. Yeah, I really like this one. I really enjoyed his writing style. The characters were really good. The setting and like the context was interesting too. Yeah, definitely recommend this one if you haven't read it. If you like vintage horror specifically, I would definitely recommend it. And yeah, I think it's one that seems to have been overshadowed, unfortunately, by The Exorcist, and then of course the film adaptation. It's one that I think should be better known than it is. I gave it 4 stars, by the way. I can't remember if I mentioned that already, but yeah, it was really good. And so that is it. Those are all of the books I read in October. It was, yeah, quite a lot of books to get through, but like I said, a lot of them were very short ones and very quick reads. So yeah, it just seems like I read a lot more than I actually did. And overall, yeah, I had a really good month. I had a lot of good Halloween-y books, which was great. And yeah, the middle grade and YA were just really fun and, you know, nostalgic. And yeah, it ended up being a really good reading month. If you have read any of these, I would love to hear what you thought of them, or let me know what your favourite book that you read in October was. I would love to hear about that, especially if you have any recommendations. So that's it for now. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!